What's going on, guys? It's Kieran here, back with my second video on my YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking about male pattern baldness, aka androgenic alopecia, which is essentially hair loss in men, and can be women too, but today we're going to be specifically focused on the hair loss in men, male pattern baldness. So what actually is hair loss, what causes it, and is there anything that you can do to prevent it or even slow down the rate of hair loss? And the aim of this video is to try and break down the science behind hair loss as best I can to make it easily understandable for anyone, as it's a relatively complicated process. So today may be a slightly longer video than the previous one, and it may require watching a few times to really digest everything. So yeah, let's get into it. I feel like speaking about hair loss is quite a taboo topic for whatever reason, and as a result, not many guys actually learn about or are taught about cause of hair loss. As a result, you see a lot of men balding in their early 20s or even sometimes earlier. And speaking from experience, this is something that can really knock your confidence. So I've no idea really why there isn't more emphasis on teaching about this, or why it's such a taboo topic. So yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons I started this channel. To pass on my knowledge, all things self-improvement related, specifically fitness, health, and definitely hair loss. This is something that I suffer with from my late teens and early 20s. So yeah, if I can hopefully educate and motivate a few people along the way, that'd be a win for me. Again, this is really for my own sort of personal thing, but hopefully I can motivate and educate people along the way. And again, as mentioned in my last video, I definitely suffer from male pattern baldness, but even for me, it wasn't until after I had my hair transplant at the age of 25, so 4 years ago now, just over 4 years ago. It wasn't until then that I actually decided to learn about hair loss, what causes it, and any treatments that are out there. Because even though I had a hair transplant, it doesn't actually stop the cause of hair loss. It just transfers hair from the back of the scalp to the top of the scalp. So yeah, in this specific video, I want to try and break down the hair loss cycle as best I can so that literally anyone can understand it. So let's get into it. What exactly is happening underneath your scalp? So in my last video, we discussed the hair growth cycle. So if you haven't seen that one yet, I'd recommend watching that one before we watch this one. I'll put a link in the comments for that video as well. So starting with this skin, I guess, the skin of the scalp consists of three primary layers. You've got the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. So you've got the epidermis on the top, the dermis in the middle, and the hypodermis in the bottom layer. All of which play crucial roles in supporting the hair follicles. The epidermis is the top layer. This is basically a protective barrier for the follicles, and the second layer is the dermis, in which the follicle is embedded. And the third layer is the hypodermis, which is the bottom layer, which essentially acts as a cushion with the scalp for the scalp, insulates the hair follicle and helps sort of keep them in place. So think of the hair follicle as like a microscopic hole in the skin, sort of like this. It extends from the epidermis to the dermis, so the top two layers. And at the base of that is a bulb. So let's say that's your hair follicle, and then you've got the bulb there embedded at the bottom of the follicle. Within that base, you've got the dermal papilla, which is basically like the heart of the hair follicle. It supplies the oxygen and the natural growth factors for the hair, allowing the growth of healthy shafts. So what happens? There's your bulb, which is essentially the root of the hair. And as the cells in the hair bulb divide, this is what produces the hair shafts. Again, it gradually pushes through the scalp and is what you see as your hairs. That's essentially where the hair stems from, and that is exactly what's happening in the scalp. Now, throughout our body, we have various androgen receptors, which are essentially cells that react to androgens, such as testosterone. And when the androgen, like test, binds to those receptors, it triggers a specific growth reaction or development. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the specific androgens and androgen receptors throughout the body. I'm just trying to explain this so we understand a little bit better what's going on. It's pretty crucial for the next step. So going into specifics about hair loss and the androgen and androgen receptors in the scalp, we can actually get down to the actual causes of hair loss. Hormones are what cause hair loss. The main hormone that causes hair loss is called dihydrotestosterone, aka DHT. DHT is a conversion from testosterone. Now, I'm sure most of you watching this will know what testosterone is, But for those that don't, testosterone is basically the hormone responsible for like male development, muscle growth, bone density, libido, mood, and energy. Whereas in contrast, specifically hair related, DHT is like testosterone's evil brother. DHT is a very pivotal and important hormone in the body, specifically for young men going through puberty and development. But specifically hair related, DHT is basically a bad hormone. So when the test converts to DHT, the DHT binds to the receptors in your hair follicles. And what it does to the hair follicles is it shrinks the follicles over time, which is a process called miniaturization. So you've got tests, converts to DHT, binds to the follicles, weakens the follicles, miniaturizes the follicles. So eventually the follicle will shrink to a state whereby it can no longer produce healthy hairs. So as discussed in my previous video throughout the hair growth cycle, DHT will cause those hairs to grow back throughout each cycle phase, weaker and thinner, until over time the follicle dies completely and hair can no longer be produced, which is what you see as male pattern baldness, or that's why you see men that are bald. So how does the testosterone convert into DHT? Well, this is through an enzyme called the 5-alpha reductase, or the 5-AR. So think of the 5-AR as like a pathway, as like an entrance. This is your 5-alpha reductase. Testosterone goes through. 5-alpha reductase comes out as dihydrotestosterone. So it goes in as test, converts in 5-AR, comes out as dihydrotestosterone, which is the bad hormone. As that binds onto the then, and if we go onto your hair follicle, the test, the DHT binds onto the follicle, weakening it over time until the bulb dies and can no longer produce hair. So unfortunately, although test is a great hormone, great for personal development, when test levels are high, that means 5-AR activity is high, the 5-alpha reductase, which converts to more dihydrotestosterone, which results in hair follicle miniaturization till eventually we see the male pattern baldness occurring. So what causes the 5-AR activity? Well, unfortunately, it's genetics. So if you're balding, you've just not been blessed with the best hair genetics, unfortunately. Again, I myself struggled a lot with that. But there are other factors to consider as well. So over time, as we age, you just produce more at 5-AR. You produce more DHT through 5-AR, which is why you see more men as they get older, they tend to lose hair. But if your genetics play a part, when you're younger, you produce more DHT like myself, and you start to bald earlier. Another cause of hair loss is if you're on anabolic steroids. For example, if you're injecting testosterone, you're going to have more testosterone in your system, which is only going to result in more dihydrotestosterone being produced. So although you may grow muscle quicker, you're also putting your hair follicles at risk and potentially leading to early balding than you may have experienced without steroids. So I think that covers everything. I hope that I've made it easy enough to understand, but just a quick recap. Androgenic alopecia, or male pattern baldness, is a complex condition influenced by hormones, predominantly that of DHT. So testosterone converts to DHT through the 5-alpha reductase pathway, then binds to the hair follicles, weakens the hair follicle, until over time the follicle can no longer produce healthy hair until it dies, hence male pattern baldness. So that's it, I think. I've been talking for quite a while now, so I say hopefully that is digestible for everyone. You may have to watch this one again to fully understand it. There are some really good channels out there for those interested. Kevin Mann at Hair Cafe, really good channel for all things hair loss related, although he is a little bit more sciencey than I am. Goes into a lot of research papers, which is really, really good. But it's a little bit harder to digest some of his information. Derek More Plates, More Dates, another excellent channel. These are two channels that I watched a lot in my early hair loss learning journey. So if you just search like Derek More Plates, More Dates, hair loss, or Hair Caf, hair loss, you'll get some really, really good content in there if you can digest that. In my next video, I would like to talk a bit more about hair loss treatments, what is out there, what they do, how they work, and my thoughts on them. But for now, if you found this video useful, like it, drop some comments, share it, subscribe to the channel, as it will really help with the algorithm. Yeah, see you all soon.